you're going to be able to go back to your grade level colleagues and say, hey, let's gather up these materials and let's spend some time creating a curriculum map that we can use for next year. Now, the first set of examples were two sites that I thought were really good. This first one here, Education Closet, and I want to introduce you to that one in just 1 second. Right here. Excuse me, friends, as I move this over for you. This one I liked because it had a nice formatting at the top that allowed you to easily see your information. Here we have the ELA standard. Now, some of us like to go ahead and itemize our standards. That's absolutely an option for you to do. It is a choice. If you want to just go ahead and here they're talking about point of view of the author of a text, and you just want to write point of view, it's your curriculum map. You're going to know it best, so you need to write down what you think you're going to be able to use. Here they talked about the art standards, possible assessment, and the lesson idea. Now, this had 4 categories, and that's really great, but one of the things that I saw that it was missing is that it was integrating the science and the social studies. But what I wanted you to see is how it went ahead and it chunked the standards together to mesh the big idea. The other thing that's also real important is that you plan for your assessment period. We're so busy teaching, but we have to stop, assess, and reflect before we move on. Did we cover the material enough so that our students have a firm enough foundation to move on to the next standard? So assessment is really important. So looking at this 3rd grade language arts curriculum map, you can kind of get an idea of how you want to chunk it. Now, going back to what are the parts that you really think are essential to a curriculum map, one of the things that I think I might add is that pacing guide. If I'm going to cover this standard, what week or what month or what block of time would I cover it? Some people like to plan in a week, some people like to plan in chunks, some people like to plan by trimester. It's really up to you. I think the more detailed you are by week, the easier it is going to be for you to lesson plan and to actually be able to build in those big ideas and those integrated lessons. The second one that I thought was really good was something that I saw from a Chino website. Now, this one here is just a copy of the Wonders at Glance Scope and Sequence. Now, this is something we all have available to us, and it has all of the standards. I know that when we were talking earlier, we talked about focus standards, and how as focus standards, we had to figure out which ones are we going to include. This one had everything. Now, think about doing this for every single unit. In a few minutes, I'm going to show you my curriculum map that I did for 1 unit. I did not realize how much detail was there. I don't know if you want to have that much detail, so that's why when you're creating your curriculum map, you want to have your focus ideas. I don't know if you necessarily want to be able to put standard and writing in 2 separate categories. If the genre we're reflecting on for the trimester is on informative information, then maybe that's all you want to write. It's in our lesson plans that we can go ahead and talk about what does that informative writing piece look like. This one I did like because of how it is chunked out by unit, and it does have it itemized by week. The one thing again I think is important is that pacing to keep us on task to make sure that we get everything covered that we need to do. And that's basically the whole point of the curriculum map, is to make sure that we have everything covered. The next set of websites is the first one that I really enjoyed, is the 5 steps to a curriculum map. Now this I'm going to have us watch right now because I want you to be able to see from a specialist, a professional, somebody who has a lot of experience in building a curriculum map. What are those essential 5 steps? And so we're going to take just a few minutes to go ahead and watch this 6-minute video on the 5 steps to making a curriculum map. Now this is available to you also. If you'll turn on the back side of your sheet, you're going to have these available to go ahead and share with your colleagues. And there's some line paper that you also have if you have any notes. And at the end, we'll go ahead and do some reflection time. But this is your time just to figure out what are those 5 steps to curriculum.
educator, you undoubtedly have heard about curriculum mapping. You might have done some curriculum mapping or heard people talk about curriculum mapping, or maybe curriculum mapping happened before you got to your new position. But we're going to talk a little bit about what curriculum mapping actually is. Very often educators will say, yes, we've done some curriculum mapping, but I'm not sure we've done it right. Or, I think that we've done curriculum mapping, but is that really what it is? And so I'm going to talk to you about 5 steps to curriculum mapping. My name is Diane McKinley, and I own Encompassing Education, where we provide high-quality professional development for educators in person and online. And we're going to start by talking about the 5 steps of curriculum mapping now. So the very first step is really to start with your standards. You're going to dig into those standards and really pick them apart and look at them. I often like to say that standards have been written in legalese. So if you're looking at a legal document and it's giving you lots of information and you're trying to get to the bottom of it, and really they could have used much simpler words.
Okay, so now that we've gone ahead and we've watched about the 5 steps, I want you to stop and I want you to talk with your cross grade level colleagues. What part of those steps do you think you're going to take back to your team and incorporate in your curriculum map? Are there any parts that you want to omit? Hey, this is not something that really is relevant for us at kinder level. Or maybe, hey, 5th grade she forgot this, let's add this. So I'm going to give you just a few minutes to go ahead, in about 5 minutes, to go ahead and talk about what are those things that you absolutely need to have. Those 5 steps that she shared, what are we going to keep? What do we want to discard? Go ahead and do that. All right. I heard some wonderful things that some of you guys want to add to your curriculum maps. I heard some of you guys say, you know what, that's just not something that we need to have. Those are all excellent ideas. The main thing I want you to keep in mind is you need to personalize your curriculum map for your grade level. You can't cookie cutter a curriculum map because it is integrated with so many different standards and big ideas. So if one grade level says this is an absolute must, please don't feel obligated to keep it at your grade level. It is up to you guys as a team to agree on what things you absolutely need to have. Now, the other 2 curriculum map videos that you can find easily on YouTube are wonderful because, again, they are very much like this first one, where they talk about the steps and they talk about the essentials and they talk about the things that they put in their thinking map. And these are fellow educators that took time to go ahead and pull in all the different curriculum pieces and line them up on the big idea. And they created a wonderful presentation of how they went ahead and did A, B, C, and D. Now this last one I thought was really important to see is that part of how do you get it to look professional? How do you get it so that I run it off and I'm able to go ahead and hole punch and put it in my lesson plan book? And one of the ways that many fellow colleagues who have gone ahead and made curriculum maps have done so is by using Excel. So this last YouTube video that you'll see on your handout sheets, the last one, actually goes step by step on how to make a curriculum map using Excel. And in a few minutes when we're done watching this, I'm going to show you what my Excel curriculum map looked like. I'm going to show you the pluses and the minuses, and then we'll go ahead and we'll recap. So go ahead and let's watch this last one on how to build a curriculum map using Excel.
I'm going to show you how I use Microsoft Excel to help me create curriculum maps I use in my classroom. So the first thing I do is I just open a blank Excel template and I begin work by numbering the weeks. This is clearly optional for you, but it's something sometimes I like to refer to as week 7 or week.
Okay, this is that pacing guide component that many of us felt was really critical to curriculum map. Although many curriculum maps, as we saw earlier on, don't have it, this person who's creating hers, she thought that this was really essential, the first step in creating her curriculum map. And as you'll hear right now, she just referred to week 7. So she's going to go ahead and she's going to go week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, and so forth. And she's going to show you how she started off with that.
Nine, and it helps me transfer everything over each year. So I begin by just putting the title. I always like to use row 1 as the heading, for each column. So I will just start numbering a couple, and then
Super
my
easy.
super
Super
level
easy.
teacher,
She's not even
I
repeating the
will
word
highlight
week.
them, drag the corner down, and have it auto number for me.
Awesome.
And
Isn't it
next
wonderful?
I
Everything
go through
automizes.
and I put the dates. Now I like to make this sound a little bit larger because I like to identify on here which, if there's anything special about that week. So if it's, say, a 4-day week because of Labor Day, or if it's a
And I'm going to stop right there because I want to share with you my experience. When I first started making curriculum map, I was not as thoughtful in that as she is. I automatically went 5 days a week all the way down, and I thought, hey, you know what? By the end of the school year, I had 4 weeks left. I thought, this is awesome. I can go ahead and start right away in those second grade standards. But whoa, I forgot about that week at Thanksgiving, that week at Easter, that week at Christmas time. And as she was saying, you know, those 4-day weeks when we have Labor Day, those 4-day weeks when we have Martin Luther King, those are things you really want to do. So, in addition to pulling out that language arts, in addition for the social studies and the science curriculums, you want to have a calendar with you. And you want to go ahead and mark, you know, the dates, but you also want to maybe mark in, hey, Martin Luther King Day. I'm still stuck on St. Patrick's Day. But you want to have that included in your curriculum map.
3-day week because of Thanksgiving. I like to identify that on here. So to do that, I like to do it with a side-by-side with
There's that calendar.
Having the calendar up. That's just what makes sense to me. So I will begin to do that. So my first week of school is August 17th this year, but there's no point in putting that because it's only 3 days and we don't begin it.
Okay, now she's talked about that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move forward just a little bit. Now you've got this site already, so you can go ahead and see this in-between part.
Of the weeks of my year. You can see I didn't go far down
I want
enough,
you to see
so
how she's
I will
making
pull
these
that
weeks.
down as well. Next,
And I'm going to move it.
in this week, so different for you if you have a Mac. I'm going side border, and then
And then we're going to keep
I'm
going.
going to format the cells again and center them both vertically and horizontally.
Now one of the things that I like that
Versus
she
the
does,
cells. Now, I'm
that
gonna
I'm
show
not
you
a
what would
techie
happen
person,
if I didn't
so it's
wrap the
hard
text.
for me. So by having her go step by step with this, teaching me how to color code,
again.
how to use the cells, how to go ahead and chunk
I
it
just
together
put
so you can see
multiplication.
these
You
weeks.
see, it gets
That was
cut off
really
because
helpful
the
to
text
me.
Isn't wrapped. So well, we're gonna make the text smaller, but it still is cut off. If I format the cell to wrap the text, it will go ahead and move it down to the bottom line. Now, of course, we don't want multiplication broken up like that, and so I'm going to make this column just a little bit larger because it needs to be anyway. And you see that it moved. It kept.
Now I'm jumping ahead so you can see how she's gone ahead and she's chunked all of her standards. She has not itemized it because we know place value, adding and subtracting. Those are multiple standards.
And,
But she's chunked the big
it went
idea to
ahead and
have
made
focus
sure it
standards
fit
there.
in the box. Now, it may not fit in the box and it might cut it off. And if that were the case, then I could just click
And
the
then I'm
cell
going to
and see
continue
what
to
is
move
highlighted.
on down
And
here.
then drag this. I'm going to choose to begin with rounding. And I like to just put basic skills here at 1.11 because maybe
Now,
1.10
what
is
I
subtraction.
want
you're
you to
setting
now
it
see is
to
how
it.
she's built her
Then
curriculum map going
1.10,
across. She's
and
got her
then
dates.
1.12
She has
through
access to any
1.14,
notes that she
or
wants to make.
however your
She's
unit
got
is
her
mapped
units
out.
of study,
So,
which is kind of like the big
This
idea,
gives you a
her
go-to
standards,
resource to let you
the
know what you're
skills,
teaching
and
each
the
week.
lessons.
It saves me
So when
much
she
stress,
does
and
her
I hope
lesson
it helps
planning,
you.
boom, she's
Thanks.
able to pull this out right away. All right. So now what we're going to do
From Tales from Outside the Classroom.
is we're going to go ahead and give us some time to go ahead and reflect on what we just saw in the videos and talk with your colleagues about any ideas that you may have as you were watching some of these videos.